Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Uplifting Impact podcast. I'm Justin Ponder, Chief Information Officer with Uplifting Impact, and I'm excited to be hosting you today as we dive deeper into our journey to make the world more diverse, equitable, and inclusive. Today, I'm very excited to be talking with Rajeev Kapur. Rajeev is CEO of 1105 Media, Inc., a leading provider of business-to-business marketing, events, and media services. As a global business and technology leader and chief executive officer, Rajeev reinvents, resuscitates business cultures, transforming stagnant sales into dynamic multi-million-dollar growth for small and middle market companies. A true rainmaker and innovator, Rajeev is passionate about repairing broken market strategies, company cultures, and leadership stagnation to identify and capture new business opportunities. He is the author of Chase Greatness, Enlightened Leadership for the Next Generation of Disruption. Welcome to the show, Rajeev. Thank you for joining us.
Justin, my friend, thank you so much for having me. It's a true honor to be on here with you and to take your time and take the listeners' time.
So we got a quick icebreaker for you that we'd like to start things off with. So the one you've got for today is, if you could switch your role for any other role in your company for a day, which would it be and why?
I would absolutely switch my role with one of my top salespeople. And I'll tell you why. So I started my career in sales. I started my career as a 100% commission salesperson for an old computer company called Gateway. Some people might remember it, the cow spotted boxes and everything. And then I went to Dell and I was a sales guy at Dell for a long time, whatever. But just that thrill of being in front of the customer, cutting the deals, calling people, being in front of that, and just, building those relationships would be fun. Because once you kind of get into the C-suite, you're more focused on the overall health of the business, whether it's operations, HR, finance, IT. Some of the stuff is mundane, some of the stuff is boring, but the real action is on the sales side. So I think that's where I probably really find myself. And plus, they get to travel a little bit and have some fun, and
Absolutely. And I heard you say about making those connections. What is it about making the sales connection that resonates with you so much? Why that?
Well, look, I mean, it's what we do here at 1105. We connect buyers with sellers, right? Mm-hmm. And so, the cool thing is that you're really trying to provide a value-added service by saying, look, I have a solution that I think is going to help your company grow and help your company be better. And ultimately, I think right now we're in a tech recession, even though we're not in a kind of full-blown recession. But my company is very tech-heavy, but we are in a tech recession, right? If you look at all the layoffs that are happening around the country, around the world, they're all the vast majority are happening in the tech space, right? So Silicon Valley, those areas. And so because of that, we're being impacted some with campaigns and things like that, not coming to fruition. And so, it's important to remember and realize that, you have to continue to innovate, be different, diversify, be able to go to your customers and find new ways to help them grow. And that's ultimately what our tagline is at 1105, which is your growth is our business. And so we really want our customers to grow. And that's really up to, that really is our salespeople, our marketing people, and everybody that supports it underneath, right?
And you mentioned about this growing, and you also mentioned the recession, which ties to a third thing, a major theme that you talk about. For example, in your book, Chase Greatness, Enlightened Leadership for the Next Generation of Disruption. How can we think about recession and all these different challenges as disruption? And how do you encourage people to embrace disruption, especially when it feels like the sky is falling?
Well, here's the thing. Recessions are temporary. Disruptions are constantly happening, right? We haven't been in a recession since probably 2008. People thought COVID was going to be a recession, but there's so much money pumped into the system and whatever the case may be. Now, obviously, we're paying for some of that now through inflation and some of the other challenges. But for the most part, my company, we actually thrived during COVID. I mean, we did really well. I mean, we lost our events business, but our digital business skyrocketed. And so there's that part of it. But ultimately, remember that a recession is usually 12 to 18 months, maybe max. They make some changes in interest rates. People start spending money again. They lose some credit. Acquisitions aren't happening again. More and more companies go IPO again. More and more wealth gets created, whatever the case might be. And so that's what will eventually happen here. Now, whether it happens by the end of this year or end of next year or early in 2025, who the hell knows? But the point of it is that it's temporary. But disruption is never temporary. Disruption is always happening. As a matter of fact, if in the next 2 years, the next 24 months, 24 to 30 months, there's going to be massive disruption. We're already seeing it already.
Yes.
You know, in the book, I talked about AI. I didn't talk about ChatGPT because
Right.
ChatGPT wasn't even there.
Even just that short time. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it was more around what's happening in AI in general, around machine learning and those kinds of things, right? Now you have ChatGPT, which is disrupting things, and Midjourney and all these other things, text to video, text to imagery, all these different types of things, It's really exciting because the person or the people in your listeners that embrace this technology, and they understand and realize that this type of AI and this type of disruption is going to allow them to have a co-pilot sitting next to them while they're working. It's going to allow for a second brain sitting next to them. Is going to allow them to grow. They're going to become the leaders of the future in this space. And I can tell you right now, there's like, oh my God, my job's going to go away. No, your job's probably not going to go away. What's going to happen is your job might transform a little bit. New jobs will get created. And if you think about that, new jobs were created when the first PCs hit the desk. Oh my God, all these people are going to lose their jobs because of PCs. Then, oh my God, all these people are going to lose their jobs because of internet. Oh my God, all these people are going to lose their jobs because of e-commerce. Oh my God, people are going to lose their jobs because of whatever, YouTube or whatever it was going to be, right? But the point of it is, or the iPhone or whatever it might be. The point of it is that humans adapt, right? And new jobs get created. And so disruption is always happening. In the next 24 months, not only do you have a technological shift happening, you also have a demographic shift happening.
Absolutely.
And the demographic shift is that in the next 24 months, the majority of the workforce in the country is going to be Gen Z, millennial, and for the first time, women will have a slight majority in the workforce. And and so you have that happening. You have massive technological disruption, and then on top of that, you have this whole work from home and this whole other thing happening, and people can go anywhere type of thing. And you have some other, and you're in DC right now, so there's some polarization out there too. But you have all those things combined, so that's going to cause massive disruption, right? Especially as boomers exit the workforce more and more, as Gen Xers get older and they start to exit the workforce over the next 5 years, 10 years. So it's going to be up to the Gen Z millennials and then Gen Alpha after that to come up, and they are the most connected generation. Just like I'm a Gen Xer. When I was a Gen Xer, I was the most connected generation. So they're going to be the most. So they're going to be the Gen Alpha is going to be the most connected generation because they're going to be all into AI and everything, right? And so so it's just a constant change and a constant evolution. So that's what I mean by disruption and recession. And but the disruption is always going to happen.
And how do you coach leaders into that? For example, the scenario you laid out, I'm a Gen Xer, and you're talking about all these rapid changes that I can't even wrap my head around. And even the examples that you laid out, oh my God, ChatGPT is going to cause all these changes. Oh my goodness. And all the examples you gave us, I'm going to lose my job. How do you coach people down, and especially leaders, to embrace those disruptions in the workplace and get over that initial feeling of threat? Change, it's bad, it's going to harm me. How do you get them to embrace this and embrace the next generation of disruption, to have enlightened leadership as opposed to simply wanting to preserve the way things are?
So I think there's two questions in there, which is how do you get them to embrace it, and then kind of more of what is enlightened leadership, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's start with how you get them to embrace it. Literally the day that ChatGPT came out into the market was back, I think, end of November, early December. That afternoon, so I heard about it in the morning. That evening, I sent it to my two sons who are in college. Hey guys, check it out. And Justin, what was interesting is they said to me, Dad, we already know this. and what happened was, and remember, it had just been released 8 hours earlier.
Yes.
And my one son's at USC, my one son is at University of Miami. Okay, opposite coasts. How did that happen? It went so viral so fast across Snapchat, Instagram, all these social media places where all these kids hang out. It was like a raging wildfire that hit everybody. As soon as one heard about it, it all went everywhere. And within 8 hours, nearly every college student in the country within 8 hours knew what it was.
Yes.
And that's just insane, right? And so I thought I was kind of fast, but I wasn't. And so
you were 8 hours.
That night, I was 8 hours late. And so I sent it to my team, my management team. And they're like, what the blankety blank is wrong with you? This is the dumbest thing ever. This is nothing. This is just going to be a what in the wind. And they didn't get it. And then guess what? They started hearing about it. And they started hearing it more and more. And I kept sending more stuff, right? So then what you realize at the end of the day is you have to lead by example. When you have these massive disruption changes, you have to lead by example.
Mm.
So, I would start hitting them with why, we started going over it. My management team I started dedicating probably a third of my management team to AI.
Wow.
So we started talking about how I started giving examples of how it could work, and they still didn't believe it. It wasn't until I would say February, March when they got true religion on it. And then in May, I brought the entire management team together here in Southern California, and we all got together and we went through a full 2-day offsite where we went through point by point of how it's going to transform, and everybody had to come to the table with examples of how they can use it in their business and transform their business. And guess what? Not a single one of them talked about laying people off or cutting jobs. If anything, they all talked about how it could enhance jobs, how it could help reduce burnout, how it could take somebody who's working 60 hours a week, and by the way, they shouldn't be working 60 hours a week, but if that's what they feel and they're burnt out, well, great. Now you've got this tool by your side who can help you write your emails, help you write your social media posts, who can help you create up to the foundations of whatever blog post you need to create, whatever the case might be. It's going to give you back time. And I think that's the beauty of where these tools are going. It's going to do the one thing money can't buy, which is money can't buy time. But if you use these tools, you're going to be able to buy time back for yourself in the day. So that's why you've got to become experts, on these tools. And you have to show that by example, and you have to keep hitting them overhead with examples of how it's working other places, how others are embracing it, how others are using it, right? And so that's why. And then they start to get on board. And then, to me, it was somewhat of a burn the boat moment, which is, so I'll give you an example. So we spend probably $30,000 to $40,000 a year on a software where we can get imagery. And I'm not going to say which company, but we get some imagery, right? But if we embraced AI, well, we don't spend $30,000 or $40,000. Maybe we only spend 5 or 10.
Right.
Well, I can now take that $20,000 or $30,000. Either I can put it to the bottom line, or I can apply it towards healthcare benefits. I can apply it towards the raise pool, bonus pools. I can maybe apply it that might be half a headcount, entry level headcount for somebody here in California. So whatever. The point of it is I can now reallocate funds because I'm able to use these tools, right? And we have people who are using it already, and we're already seeing good results here in the company. We're seeing our content, the number of pieces of content we're putting out every day is going up. We have people who are we have probably saved already. We are right now saving. I saw a number yesterday, about 265 man hours.
Wow.
In a month, just by using AI tools. So when you think about that, 265 man hours, across 130 some odd employees, that's roughly approximately 2 hours an employee. Well, guess what? That doesn't sound like a lot, but that's just today already, right? And by the way, it's not linear like that. It's for some people it might be 6 hours or 8 hours a week. Some people it might be none because they don't use a lot of AI tools, right?
Right.
So like our finance department right now doesn't use a lot of AI tools, right? Our IT department break fix, helping you fix a computer or laptop, whatever. They're not using other AI tools. But marketing teams, the sales teams, other places where they are using a lot of the AI tools, maybe their numbers might be 6 or 8 hours a week. Wow. And if I can give back those people an hour or two of their life back, then they just feel less stressed. The burnout becomes less, right? They feel happier in their jobs, whatever the case might be. So that's kind of where you see it going, right? Now, in terms of enlightened leadership is built off the foundation of servant leadership, right? Yes. And we all know what servant leadership is, right? Servant leadership is, hey, Justin, I work for you. I'm the CEO, but I work for you. What tool do you need to do your job? How can I help you be successful within the company? Enlightened leadership says, hey, Justin, not only am I going to help you be successful within the walls of the company, how can I help you be successful outside the walls of the company? And that's what enlightened leadership. How can I help you spend more time with your family? How can I help you? How do I help you, live a healthier and happier life? So for example, here at 1105, we have not mandated a return to office. Wow. And people love it. Yep. And say, well, people are taking advantage of you. Well, no, they're not, because the job's getting done. The job's not getting done. Guess what? Then we'll come back to the office, or if the job's not getting done, the person's going to get fired. So, to me, it's a management issue. So these, yes, I understand that some of these bigger, massive companies, like I think Disney has now said 4 days a week and stuff like that, right? For some of these bigger, massive companies where you need to have that collaboration across so many different business units, maybe it might make more sense for them to have some of that in the office. But I know that companies like Nvidia, where and I think and I believe this is correct, but I think like even like Nvidia, which is right now one of the fastest growing AI companies right now, right? I think that they're even like, hey, look, try to come 2 days a week, but they haven't really mandated it, right? And the
Right.
work's getting done, and they're growing, and their stock price is going crazy. So look, I think it all depends on the company. I think it all depends on your culture, and it all depends on the leadership and how they embrace it. And, not what one size doesn't fit all. But for my company, it's fine because look, at the end of the day, do I care if the job gets done at 10 a.m. or 10 p.m.? Do I care if the job gets done here in Southern California or if the job's getting done in Rome, Italy, if the person's on vacation? I mean, we're outsourcing stuff already to India and other places. Well, who cares if my employee's sitting in Rome versus outsourcing something to India or the Philippines? It's the
Right.
same thing, right? As long as the job's getting done. Is the job getting done? Great. So I'm happy. If the job's not getting done, then fine. We'll take whatever action we need to take to make sure the job gets done. And in my attrition rate over the last 8-9 months is zero.
Wow.
We haven't lost a single employee in the last 8 or 9 months, which is
Because you're
awesome.
able to meet them where they're at and provide some flexibility.
Yeah, because and they realize they get a lot of flexibility. So like women in particular, like the staff on my team, women, right? They tell me all the time, hey, look, I don't have to get up an extra hour in the morning just to get ready and put on makeup, or I can go to the gym. I can help take care of the kids in the morning. I can, I don't have to rush home and sit in traffic or whatever.
Or people
Even,
living with chronic pain, like, yeah, I can't be in a cubicle sitting on a chair for 9 hours. But if you let me have a 4 hour break in the middle of the day, I'll produce the best work you've ever seen by 9 p.m.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so that's that. Like, and the other small things we did, like when the whole George Floyd thing happened, like it was like I realized that no matter what I said and did, just the sheer numbers say that 40% of the workforce probably wasn't going to be happy with every decision I make, right? Just the
Mhm.
way it is,
Yeah.
right? So what I decided to do was I said, you know what we're going to do? I want you guys to get involved in your communities, either way you want to get involved.
Mhm.
So my best way to embrace that was to give you a day off to go vote. To me, I think that's the best thing that anybody could go do in order to really talk about how they want their future to be is to go vote. And so I gave a day. I gave my entire company every November 7th, 8th, depending what day it falls on the calendar. They get a paid day off to go vote, and that to me is huge. And people say, well, what if they do it by mail? Well, if they do it by mail, then great. Then go be a poll worker. Go pick up trash in your community. Go be part of your community. Well, what if they don't want to do that? Well, then take a mental wellness day. Just hang out at home. Go spend time with your kids. Go to Disneyland. Go to the beach. Go hang out. Go shopping. Go whatever you want to do. But the point of it is that I'm giving you that time to go do it, and how you decide to use your time is up to you. But you definitely have to vote.
And I hear kind of this theme, like we were talking about disruption and encouraging leaders to adapt. And then I hear you also talking about enlightened leadership and finding ways to address kind of the whole life of the team member. How do you go about creating cultures that don't just simply passively accept and adapt, which is very important? I adapt to change, I adapt to disruption that's happening to me. How do you go forward to also create cultures where they proactively seek it out? How do I become an enlightened leader that encourages my teams to be disruptive, which could also be synonymous with innovative, even if it's in ways that you mentioned with servant leadership? What are the tools that you need to do your job? And what if they start coming up with ideas that challenge us? Like, how do you encourage your teams to save leaders from themselves and come up with the kinds of disruption we might feel uncomfortable with and uncomfortable about, but are precisely the things we need to be innovative? How do you encourage the creation of disruption beyond the adaptation to it?
Yeah, look, so remember that there's two sides of an organization,
Mhm.
right? You have the revenue, profitability, EBITDA driven side, increasing shareholder wealth side of the business, right? Then you have the side of the business that says, I got to create a great company culture,
Right.
right? Because the best company culture I can create will help fuel that, right? Well, it should help fuel that, right? So I made a comment just a couple of minutes ago about how you must vote. Well, I don't know if they vote or not.
Right.
I try to encourage them to vote, right? So I try to create a culture where you go get involved, right? Take whatever action you feel like you need, but I also try to create a culture that's built on a lot of empathy. I try to create a culture that's built on a lot of gratitude. I create a culture that's built on a lot of resilience. We create a culture that's built a lot on accountability and transparency. And so those are kind of the key 5 attributes of gratitude, resilience, empathy, accountability, and transparency that we try to build that then permeates throughout the whole our entire organization. And on top of that, what we do is every quarter we do recognition events where we recognize the top salespeople, the top performers in the business units, the people that were the top innovators, the people who maybe had the best customer service reports, or whatever it is that we're going to talk about, we'll talk about. And in that time, I get to speak to all 100 plus employees we walk through. Hey, this is how we did. This is where we are. It's what we need to embrace. This is how we're going. Right now, we talked about AI a lot already on this call, on this podcast. And, we're doing workshops in my company right now where we're doing every other week, we're doing workshops for the employees on AI, on how to use ChatGPTs, how to use all these different things, how to use different AI tools in your job. I believe part of my responsibility beyond making money for the business is to also uplift my employees, get them ready, right? And continue to uplift my management team, make sure they're ready, right? Because the true sign of an amazing leader is if I were to leave the company, they continue to thrive.
It's still going, yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so and that's the sign of what I think is an amazing leader, and that's what I strive to do.
And you mentioned early on about the demographic shift, especially along the lines of age, becoming very quickly a majority of folks in the US workforce being millennials, Generation Z, and then eventually Generation Alpha. And you mentioned the connectivity being drastically different. What are some of the other key differences that you see that leaders should prepare for to be an enlightened leader with this huge age shift? Because with it, we see the largest, quickest, fastest, broadest age shift, but also along with that, the broadest shift in workplace philosophy. So what are some of the things that you would advise enlightened leaders to be prepared for as that age shift happens?
Well, number one is I would advise them, it's going to happen, so don't fight it.
It's happening, yes.
It's just going to happen. So when I wrote the book, I took a copy of the book to the dean of the business school at USC, Jeff Garrett. And Jeff was a new dean at USC Business School, Marshall School, and that's where I did my MBA. And I went to go talk to him, and he's the guy that built Wharton. And he left Wharton to come to USC. And I took him the book, and we were talking about the book. He told me the premise of the book, and I told him what I just told you. He looked at me and said, Rajeev, what people don't understand is that it's a demographic shift. As populations ages, new demographics come in with new ideas, new thoughts. It's just an evolutionary change in the workforce. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing anybody can do to stop it. No amount of somebody jumping on Twitter and acting totally stupid and saying dumb shit stuff, sorry for my French, is going to change it. And so it's going to happen. It's going to come. You have to embrace it. And it's getting, the good news here is, like, if you look at my management team, I think the average age of my management team is, probably in the mid to high 40s, I think, if not maybe a little bit higher. So we're kind of that demographic that would say, oh, we don't like this change, but no, I mean, everybody's embracing it. Everybody knows and gets it because I've been telling them all the time that, look, it's going to happen. It's going to change. It's going to come. And then it's about and then it's about creating a partnership between an older demographic and the upcoming demographic, and how to work together, how they can work together, how they can show each other, how they can get to, and you bring, and so one of the things we like to do is we do like to bring in a lot of partnering within the business. We do like to have, we do a lot of meetings. Well, we don't do a ton of meetings, but we do a lot of meetings and discussions where we try to solicit ideas from the front line. So if you think about it, like our customer service teams or sales teams that tend to be a little bit on the younger side, they are absolutely encouraged to come up with new ideas, new ways of doing sales, new ways of doing marketing, new ways of doing customer service. When you fly on an airplane, Justin, and we were talking before we jumped on the podcast that you were having some flight issues, but when you're sitting down in your seat and the flight attendant comes up and they do the whole safety check, yes. What do they say when the mask, if in case of an emergency, a mask is going to fall from the ceiling? What do they tell you to do first?
Secure your mask first before assisting
Why?
Others.
Why?
Because you could pass out and then you can't help anybody else.
Exactly. Right. And so because of that, I make sure that my team understands and realizes that my 100 plus employees are my number one customer. It's not my customers buying our solutions. They are my number one customer. Those are my number two customer. Because the more I can take care of them, the more I can provide solutions for them, the more I can make their job easier, the more I can give them tools to be successful, the more I can provide that partnership across the different demographics, the more successful and happier they're going to be, the less attrition we're going to have, the more they're going to think outside the box, the more they're going to take better care of the external customer. So to me, a CEO's number one customer should always be their internal customer first, then their external customer.
It's fantastic. So you've shared a lot of thoughts and ideas about your previous book about Chase Greatness, but I also hear glimmers of a new book coming up. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and its content area?
Yeah, so I, a couple months ago, started writing a new book, and it's probably going to come out in the September, October timeframe. It's called AI Made Simple, A Beginner's Guide to Generative Intelligence. And it's all about, I kind of wrote a book to say, how do I get, if I wanted to write a book about AI and ChatGPT and all these tools that are coming down the road, how do I do it so like my mom could read the book, right? Or,
Mm,
or whomever, right? My wife or a close friend of mine could read the book and who's not super technical, whoever it
right.
might be. And they can just read it and they can get at least, if nothing else, a good basic understanding. And so I'm excited to say, look, we just did the cover design this week and it's going to go for copy edit here in the next few days. And so that's exciting. I think it's, hopefully by the September, October timeframe, it'll be out there and, in time for Christmas. And so that's kind of the next big thing. And it's really just about understanding and realizing that this is a major, major, major game-changing shift in the way we're all going to live our lives. And
Yes.
so it's just how do you embrace it?
And what do you hope is the major thing people get from that besides learning about the changes? What do you hope they get from your book?
Look, I think the book does a really good job of balancing all the cool advantages of it. It also talks about some of the challenges of it, talks about some of the fears of it. But hopefully by the time they get done reading it, and I try to this is not just a giant rosy picture of like, hey, it's everything wonderful. No, there's potentially look, we all know that there could be some potentially bad actors out there who do use it for deep fakes and for voice cloning and some really bad things, right? They could do some of that stuff, right? And so but here's what I know, right? Is that the good guys normally win this stuff, and that there will be good AI to combat the bad AI. And at the end of the day, don't be afraid. I think if there's one big takeaway, it's like, look, okay, hey, I could do this. It's easy. It's not scary. So don't be afraid of the future.
And I think that's been a comforting theme throughout this entire conversation about don't be afraid of the recession, don't be afraid of disruption, don't be afraid of this enlightened leadership, don't be afraid of AI, don't be afraid, embrace the change. So thank you very much
Yeah.
for this, Rajeev Kapur. So thank you for being with us. I know folks are listening and they are enthralled, very excited to read Chasing Greatness, but also this next book. How can they get in touch with you to continue learning with you?
Well, in terms of the first book, Chase Greatness, it's on Amazon or it's on, I think there's an audiobook version. Well, not I think it's an audiobook on Spotify as well. There's Audible, etc. It's on Barnes and Noble, Target, and other places. So that's the book, right? In terms of getting hold of me, you can email me. Well, first of all, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's easy. My last name is Kapur, so people can find me, Rajeev Kapur, on LinkedIn and 1105 Media. That's 1105 Media. I'm there and I accept requests. Just tell me that you heard me on your podcast, and so that's exciting. Then I don't do much Twitter because I'm not a fan, but I do. But I'm on Instagram. My Instagram handle is at Rajeev Kapur, and you can always email me Rajeev at rajeevkapur.com or Rajeev at 1105media.com. So those are some really easy ways of getting hold of me.
Fantastic. And we'll make sure to also put it in the show notes. So once again, thank you very much, Rajeev, for your helping us learn through these situations. Thank you so much.
Take care, Justin. Thank you so much. Best of luck.
And thank you to all of you out there listening. We're so glad that you tuned into today's week's episode of the Uplifting Impact podcast. We need more people like you to uplift the impact. In order to do so, be sure to share this episode, comment on it, or going to our website at upliftingimpact.com, or provide your thoughts directly to us through LinkedIn at Uplifting Impact, Justin Ponder, and Deanna Singh. Until next week, keep uplifting the impact.